The movie begins with Brandon, who works as a bodyguard for the governor's daughter, Ava. He has been dealing with internalized guilt since he failed to protect her mother. Brandon and Ava arrive at the airport, where Ava meets her friends Jed and Kyle. They are going on a trip together, and the boys aren't happy that Brandon is coming too. However, Ava explains that her father wouldn't have let her come without security. Once they board the plane, Ava and the guys sit in the back for privacy. And Ava can't help but notice that it's strange for a flight to have so few passengers. Shortly after they take off, the plane shakes a little bit, but it's considered normal. However, moments later, the plane starts shaking again, and the engine can be seen heating up. The pilot tells the passengers that they accidentally hit some birds and that there isn't anything to worry about. However, soon the plane starts shaking again, and an engine catches on fire. At that moment, the pilot asks everyone to fasten their seatbelts. And as everyone starts to fear for their lives, a part of the engine breaks and flies off, hitting the side of the plane and killing a passenger. The crack in the wall causes a pressure change, and everything starts flying off or shaking inside the plane. Bags fall off and hit people on the head. Passengers who didn't fasten their seatbelts are pushed off their seats and thrown across the plane, even when they try to hold on to other people's hands. In just a few seconds, a wall blows off, creating a huge hole on the side of the plane, causing many people to be sucked out to their deaths. Brandon tries to hold on to a floating man, but the wind is too strong, and the guy is blown away. Another guy tries to hold on to the seats, but the metal can't hold on for much longer, and the seats fall off with the guy still on them. A flight attendant tries to help a guy who is about to fall, but ends up falling with him. After losing most of its passengers, the plane starts falling at great speed and crashes into the ocean, immediately flooding with water. As Brandon is stabbed by a piece of metal, the impact pushes the seats forward and crushes many passengers. The plane sinks for a few minutes and eventually comes to a stop when it gets stuck on the seabed. Thanks to the plane being stuck at an angle, an airlock is formed at the back, and Ava, her friends, and flight attendant Danilo are alive. However, Kyle has a broken bone in his arm. The group stares at the water, worried about the strange noises they are hearing. Suddenly, Brandon emerges, bringing Rosa and her grandmother Marty to the safe area. Marty is unconscious, so Danilo starts performing chest compressions, and after a few minutes, Marty wakes up. Rosa then asks about her grandfather, and Brandon sadly informs her and Marty that he didn't make it. The group starts to panic, but Brandon takes over leadership to calm everyone down. The airlock means they are safe for now, so they need to stay calm and wait for rescuers to find them. Ava checks her phone but realizes there's no reception under the sea. She points out a hole in the plane and suggests they should swim out, but Brandon explains that their chances of survival like that are low, so they must stay and wait. Danilo informs them that the pilots must have called for help before the crash, so help should be on its way soon. Brandon suggests they should have backup oxygen just in case. Danilo says the plane has 2 tanks in the back for emergencies, but when he checks on them, he finds them empty. At that moment, Marty remembers that one of the passengers had a medical oxygen tank, so Brandon volunteers to dive in and find it. Before he leaves, Marty asks him to bring her husband's hat. Brandon swims through the corridor, checking on the passengers who died in their seats. He finds the husband's hat and takes it, not noticing something swimming by the window. He also finds the oxygen tank and takes it before checking on the hole. He decides to swim further to search for anything else he can take, and to his shock, he is suddenly attacked by a shark that enters through the hole. The shark bites Brandon, and he struggles against it, trying his best to get it off him. Meanwhile, the group becomes worried when they see ripples in the water, indicating something is happening. Suddenly, the ripples disappear, and Brandon resurfaces, telling the others to stay back while revealing severe wounds on his body. Breathing heavily, he hands the others the oxygen tank and the hat before apologizing to Ava. Then he is dragged back into the water, and the group sees the shark's tail peek out as the creature devours him. Terrified, the group moves back to hide in the employees' area and agrees that they should continue waiting, as Brandon suggested. Marty offers to take care of Kyle's arm, explaining that she used to be a nurse during wartime and that's how she met her husband. Kyle screams in pain when Marty pushes the bone back into place, but she improvises a splint using some thick magazines and bandages. Outside, a helicopter is flying near the area, searching for the crashed plane. They have priority orders because they know the governor's daughter is among the victims, but for now, they don't see anything. Back with the survivors, they hear creaking noises, and the plane shakes for a few seconds, indicating the possibility of another fall. Jed's negativity is increasing, but Danilo opens the oxygen tank that Brandon retrieved. Suddenly, they notice the water turning red, and the sounds make them realize that sharks have entered the plane to feed on the drowned bodies. The sharks swim by their window, hitting random parts of the plane as they move. Rosa becomes increasingly scared, but Ava reassures her, expressing confidence that they'll be rescued. However, the helicopter searching for them still hasn't found anything and is running low on fuel. The group keeps track of the water level and estimates they have about 3 or 4 hours before it reaches the back of the plane. However, they also notice the metal creaking and water leaking through the ceiling, making them uncertain if the plane will hold up for that long. Suddenly, the plane starts descending, sliding down for several minutes and causing rocks to fall off until it gets stuck once again. Fortunately, nobody in the group gets hurt during this descent, but the new angle causes the water level inside the plane to rise faster. Realizing that the seabed isn't as solid as they thought, the group agrees that swimming out of the plane is their only option. They need to find a way to distract the sharks, and Rosa suggests creating bubbles, since sharks don't like them. However, they face the challenge of holding their breath for an extended period. Kyle remembers that some passengers were traveling with scuba equipment, which is stored in the baggage hold. Danilo explains that there's a hatch that would give them access, but the oxygen tanks are likely empty as they wouldn't have been allowed on the plane otherwise. Ava suggests that the remaining scuba equipment could still be useful, but Jed's pessimism undermines their confidence. To encourage the others, Ava pretends to need to use the bathroom and has a breakdown as she hears the plane creaking. When she emerges, she teaches Rosa that it's okay to feel frightened. Meanwhile, the helicopter has only 15 minutes of fuel left. Finally, they spot floating plane parts, and 2 divers jump into the water to begin the search. The survivors gesture at the window to get their attention. As one diver swims toward the hole, the other approaches the window to reassure the survivors. However, they fail to notice the shark that appears behind the diver. The group tries to warn him, but he turns around and sees nothing. When he looks back at the plane, the shark pulls him down, resulting in his death. The survivors, hearing noises above the plane, check the corridor but find no sign of the other diver, assuming he is also deceased. With the helicopter nearly out of fuel, they have no choice but to leave, but they have the coordinates and backup is on its way. Ava suggests that if the other diver is dead, they could take his oxygen tank. She peers underwater and notices a shadow, but she can't be certain. Jed tries to get a closer look by standing on the seats but slips and falls into the water. The group panics as they can't see him, but he resurfaces, laughing because he had been pranking them. However, he doesn't make it out in time, and the shark soon finds him, attacking him. The group manages to pull Jed away from the shark and into safety, but they discover that he has lost a leg. Marty makes Rosa stand behind the curtain while she tends to Jed's wound. Using seatbelts, Marty creates a tourniquet to stop the bleeding, and Jed cries when he realizes he won't be able to participate in any more triathlons. Determined to find a way out, Ava volunteers to search for the scuba equipment. As Danilo opens the hatch, they discover that the baggage hold is flooded, but Ava dives in regardless. Using a flare, she explores the area but is startled by an octopus just as the flare goes out. The others grow worried as they see no light, but Ava eventually returns with the scuba equipment. The group opens the bags to find diving suits and masks, but there are only 4 available. At that moment, they hear something hitting the plane and rush to check the window, but no diver is in sight, indicating it may have been a shark. However, they notice that Jed has already died. A desperate Ava tries to perform chest compressions, but Marty pulls her back, forcing her to face the truth. Suddenly, the plane slides down again, but this time it quickly comes to a halt as the cockpit breaks and acts as an anchor. The water level is rising rapidly, necessitating a swift escape. Remembering Rosa's earlier fun fact, they devise a plan to use the small oxygen canisters from the emergency masks to blow bubbles at the sharks. However, they still need to overcome the challenge of swimming such a distance. Kyle breaks down and confesses a childhood accident that left him traumatized, making him a poor swimmer. With the support and encouraging words from Ava and Rosa, he agrees to give it a try. Ava collects as many oxygen masks as she can find without venturing too deep into the water. The sharks continue to batter the plane, and cracks start to form in the ceiling. The group begins changing into their diving suits, and Marty selflessly volunteers to go without a suit, reasoning that her age would only slow everyone down. After bidding a final farewell to Jed, the survivors enter the water, noticing that the plane is gradually sliding down again. Suddenly, the cockpit completely breaks off and plunges into the abyss, signaling that the rest of the plane will soon follow suit. Marty asks Ava to go first and take Rosa with her. The girls start swimming through the corridor, only to encounter a shark blocking their path. They swiftly open an oxygen canister to scare it away. Once the way is clear, they continue moving forward, and soon Kyle and Danilo join them. Meanwhile, Marty watches the young people swim away as the water level rises inside the plane. She realizes that she won't be able to make it and chooses to stay behind, eagerly awaiting a reunion with her husband. Just as Kyle starts to panic and swims back to reach the small pocket of air, a shark emerges from the baggage hold and attacks him, devouring him within seconds. Terrified, Danilo swims to meet up with Rosa and Ava, who discover the dead diver and retrieve his tank to fill up their lungs. Ava instructs Rosa and Danilo to go through the hole with the tank, while she remains behind. However, as Ava attempts to leave, a shark blocks her path. Ava swims back and freezes, and the shark unknowingly swims inside without noticing her. Unfortunately, the shark's tail strikes her mask, dislodging it. Ava then realizes that more sharks are entering through the hole, prompting her to swim towards the front of the plane. At that moment, the plane accelerates its descent, making it difficult for Ava to move due to the water pressure. Fortunately, she clings onto the seats and pushes through, managing to escape through the front hole just before the plane plummets into the abyss. Now in the water, Ava begins swimming towards the surface. However, she soon runs out of air and loses consciousness. Her body stops swimming, but the floaties she's wearing help her stay afloat. As soon as she reaches the surface, she regains consciousness and gasps for breath. Panicking when she doesn't see the others, Ava is relieved when helicopters appear and finally rescue her. Danilo and Rosa have already been saved, but when Rosa inquires about her grandmother, Ava delivers the sad news. As a final farewell to her grandparents, Rosa tosses her beloved plushie into the water before falling asleep in Ava's arms.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more content like this.